Pleasure to welcome Nitin Gupta, Chairman of CBDT, Sanjay Agarwal, Chairman of CBIC, Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs. I think trip over that and they think of saying CBEC instead of CBIC. Thank you very much for your time here on NDTV and also some of the numbers to our viewers in simple terms so that they make sense. But Mr. Gupta, I'm starting with you first. The 1.1 crore small tax demands that have been remitted, given that there was absolutely no change in taxes otherwise, at least people will be looking at this, those who've got long-standing, long-pending cases, and saying some relief that's come through in the interim budget. What was the thought process there? Sir, the mic.
Thought process is to reduce grievances. We are very conscious that we should be developing trust with our taxpayers, reduce their grievances, whatever they are, wherever they are. And in that chain, we have taken this initiative. It's an innovative initiative taken by the direct tax side. And because our legacy demands are there could be legacy demands from 61, 62, and the taxpayer may not have the records, we may not have the records, and there could be TDS mismatches which are the cause of such grievances, and where we are not in a position now to really look into the records. Even the tax deductors may not have those records. So as a solution, the smaller demands could be wiped out of the books and the taxpayer gets a relief about the such issues, because the entire process of refunds, if they are generated, gets delayed because of this demand which is outstanding.
Absolutely.
So it's an exercise into that direction. And as you know, the processing of returns has been very quick nowadays, and we are issuing and Honorable FM has already said that it has come down to 10 days, and we have rather processed 22% of returns in a single day and issued the refunds. So our endeavor is to reduce it further and be taxpayer friendly in that direction.
Well, that's always good to hear as taxpayers ourselves. If you can just run us through the numbers for direct tax collections for FY25, the assumptions that have been made, and what are the underlying trends that you think will support those tax target numbers?
As of now, in the current year, till 31st of January, we are growing at around 20% net of refunds. So we are in a very comfortable position because the processing of returns has already been completed, and we have issued refunds aggregating to 2.78 lakh crore so far in this current year. With that buoyancy at hand, the target for the current year has been pegged at 19.45 lakh crore, which is 17% higher than what we have achieved in the last year. So I think with this 3% margin is there with us, and we can achieve that 19.45 lakh crore. For the next year, 24-25, the budget estimate is pegged at 13% growth over the 19.45 lakh crore to 21.98 lakh crores. And the 13% with the current trend seems achievable in the next financial year.
If anything, people say that, tax estimates are on the conservative side in recent years, and they surprise positively. So does that apply for the numbers for FY25 as well?
I don't think. We are quite realistic, and we don't know what changes would take place in the next budget when the real budget comes up in July. So the target seems quite. And see, the base is quite broad now. It's not the small base which we are talking about. So I think it's quite a reasonable one.
Mr. Agarwal, I'll turn to you now for indirect taxes, customs. If you can, for the benefit of our viewers, they always get overwhelmed by all the numbers that are thrown at them. So what are the FY25 broad numbers when it comes to indirect taxes and customs? And again, what are some of the underlying trends behind those numbers?
As far as FY25 is concerned, the budget estimate for that is 16.18 lakh crores, and that is the asking rate to achieve that budget estimate is 9.4% over the revised estimate for FY24. I am confident that because these numbers have been worked out by taking the growth in GST revenue as well as the present trend in case of customs and union excise duties. since GST comprises almost 2/3 of indirect tax revenue, and in the current year, the GST revenue growth has remained very healty. And looking to, because that again is somewhat linked with nominal GDP growth. So the numbers or the targets which have been set for FY25 appears to be very realistic and achievable, but not, I will not say that it is conservative target, because if we consider the customs duty collection and union excise duty collection, there the growth is not as much as in case of GST. So because customs duty collection depend on many other factors which are external to the country. So like in case of customs duty and union excise duty, the target revised estimates have been downwardly revised as compared to the budget estimate for financial year 24. So on customs front, in fact, as per the Ministry of Commerce, merchandise import of India in first 9 months, so that has come down from 548 billion US dollar in the previous year to 505 billion US dollar. So,
And those are, affected by global economic health, demand, etc. So certainly the point that you're making is there is a certain degree of realism when it comes to the numbers estimated for FY25. Is that a fair summary to make? I wanted to ask you, this was a pre-budget announcement, pre-interim budget announcement, the reduction in import duties on mobile phone spare parts that came just ahead of the interim budget. Again, what explains that move, the timing of that move? Is this driven by, providing support for local domestic mobile phone manufacturers, given that that's a big and growing segment?
actually, that was not part of the budget exercise. That issue was under examination for quite some time. And there were certain disputes which were arising out of the duty structure on mobile parts, mainly maybe the display assembly. So there are certain parts which are used in display assembly like mechanics or die cut parts. So there was higher duty on those parts as compared to display assembly. To avoid that litigation, it has been decided to rationalize the rates on mobile parts, and the rate which was 15% on these parts like mechanics or die cast, so die cut parts. So that has been reduced from 15% to 10%, so that in future there is no dispute on this count.
Okay, makes sense. I know you're not going to look ahead and give us a sense of what the full budget in the summer will bring, but if there is an underappreciated aspect of the tax story, the direct tax story in India today, underappreciated by the common man, by commentators, even by journalists like us, today on the day of the interim budget, what would you point us towards?
See, the tax department is trying to improve the relationship with the taxpayer, and lot of new initiatives have been taken in the past few years, including faceless assessment, then faceless appeals, faceless penalty, and we are trying to improvise. We are trying to remove whatever kinks are there, whatever, so that it can become more and more smoother. The return filing side is very smooth now. Processing is very quick now. We are refunding the money of the taxpayer back to the taxpayer at the earliest point in time. The only request to taxpayer community would be, all the taxpayers would be, declare the rightful income and pay the taxes on time. That will be very useful for the country, for the GDP, what Honorable FM has talked about, the GDP in that form, where I'm talking of governance, development and progress. And so that will be very useful for the country and make our country Viksit Bharat, that what we are aspiring for at 2047.
Just in terms of measuring the progress on everything that you just described, ease for the taxpayer. I'm trying to understand the inner workings in the CBDT. How do you keep an eye on the fact that you're moving in the right direction perpetually?
See, technology is the tax department has adopted technology since very long. If you see the PAN numbers which were issued in the late 90s or mid 90s of the last, means 1995 or so, is still continuing. So the tax department, the CBDT has been adopted technology in a big way right from the beginning, and that is paying dividend as of now. And we have taken initiatives like you see the AIS or Form 26 AS, which we see, the new areas have been disclosed to the taxpayer. There has been interaction between now both the boards are interacting with each other in terms of data transfer and their disclosure. So all these things are making the processes very clear, transparent to the taxpayer, what we know, and in what way we can assist is the pre-filling of returns of income. That now the lot of data is pre-filled from the data which is available at the back end. And then we have come out with those measures where the litigation can be minimized.
Right.
And one of the important area is wherever we find that there is a mismatch between what data we have and what taxpayer has disclosed in the return of income, then that variation is not put to 100% scrutiny. It's an e-verification process which we have commenced, and there is an added facility of updating the return. For last 2 years, a taxpayer can update the return, pay slightly higher tax, but it is there is no litigation onto that.
The matter is disposed of.
So
yeah,
this is the way we are proceeding into, and we think that this way we will be helping the taxpayer to disclose the rightful income and pay the taxes on time. It's a nudging exercise. It's an exercise into the right direction, we believe.
and broadening and deepening the tax base is, many gains to be had on that front. You've acknowledged very clearly that GST is the source of buoyancy as far as indirect taxes are concerned. If I were to put to you, and I'm not just trying to be a pessimist for the sake of being a pessimist, but if I were to put to you that there is a fair bit of pressure for GST collections to remain buoyant, and it can become quite an intimidating exercise for the assessees, how would you respond?
I would say that the growth in GST is happening because a lot of measures have been taken. Online filing facility has been provided to the taxpayers for all their requirement. All the communication goes to the taxpayer through the common portal. So they don't have to visit the GST offices for anything. In fact, the e-invoice threshold has been reduced to 5 crores. And once the e-invoices are issued by the taxpayer, those get auto-populated in their returns. So the entire process is being streamlined, simplified, and made in a very transparent manner. So the recent policy changes which have been undertaken by the on the recommendation of GST Council has further streamlined the things. And in fact, taxpayer is nudged for voluntary compliance by intimating if there is any mismatch. So they can rectify the mistake on their own before being pointed out by the department. So that is making the life simpler for the taxpayer. And that is leading to a lot of voluntary compliance. The return filing percentage has gone up about 90% in case of GST. So that is a very high percentage.
That's a very important statistic.
World standards also. And I would like to mention that department is using big data. A lot of data which is generated from the returns filed by the taxpayers, TDS or TCS, or the income tax data. All this is analyzed, and a lot of deep diving is done to generate the intelligence reports. And now the taxpayers are also aware that if they don't comply or if they try to evade the taxes, sooner or later they will be caught. And that provides the level playing field to the honest taxpayers. So it is in the interest of everyone that everyone comply with the law so that the life becomes simpler for everyone.
Well, technology is certainly a common theme that's playing out in a very powerful way as well. I look forward to talking to you when we have the full budget to analyze, when there are tax changes to map and discuss. But thank you for your time and insights here on NDTV.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.